Most people will never build a business, not because they're lazy, not because they're not smart enough, but because they're following advice designed for companies instead of beginners. The internet has convinced people that building a business requires employees, investors, a co-founder, a fancy office, and years of preparation before you can make your first dollar. But that's simply not true. Today, there are thousands of people building profitable businesses completely on their own. No employees, no investors, no huge teams, just one person, a laptop, and a business model that actually makes sense. And the best part, many of them have more freedom, less stress, and keep more of the money they make than founders running much larger companies. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact one-person business model that has helped countless people create income online without building a startup, raising money, or hiring a team. We'll talk about the 3 stages almost every successful solo business follows, the mistakes that keep beginners stuck for years, and how you can start applying this model yourself. And make sure you stay until the end, because I've put together a free business starter kit that will help you take your first steps much faster and avoid some of the most common beginner mistakes. Before we start, subscribe to the channel if you're interested in building a better future through business, personal growth, and practical skills. My name is Anastasia, founder of LifeWise. At LifeWise, our mission is simple: to help ordinary people create more freedom, more opportunities, and a better life through education and entrepreneurship. Now let's talk about the business model nobody seems to be talking about. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. How many hours have you spent learning about business? Watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading books, saving posts, researching ideas, maybe even planning your future business. Now here's the harder question. How much money have you actually made from all of that? Because for many people the answer is 0. And that's not because they're incapable, it's because they've been sold a very dangerous idea. The internet has convinced millions of people that a real business has to look a certain way. It has to be big, it has to grow fast, it has to have employees, it has to look impressive. Every day you see startup founders raising millions of dollars, you see entrepreneurs posting photos of their teams. You see stories about companies growing from 10 employees to 100 employees. And after seeing this for years, you start believing that if you're building alone, you're somehow doing it wrong. You start thinking that a one-person business is just a temporary stage, something small, something less serious, something you'll eventually graduate from. But that's the lie, because what social media rarely shows you are the thousands of people quietly running profitable businesses without any of those things. No investors, no office, no team meetings, no endless management headaches. They're not trying to build the next billion-dollar company. They're trying to build a life they actually enjoy, and that's a completely different game. In the startup world, success is often measured by funding, valuation, growth, and headcount. But in the freedom game, success looks very different. Can you work from where you want? Can you take a day off without asking permission? Can you spend more time with your family? That's the scoreboard. And once you understand that, something interesting happens. You stop comparing yourself to businesses that are playing a completely different game, and you start focusing on building a business that serves your life instead of consuming it. Now, before I show you the model, I want to be completely honest with you. Building a business alone isn't easy. In fact, this is the part most business videos conveniently skip. Everyone loves talking about success stories, revenue screenshots, growth charts, freedom, travel, passive income. But very few people talk about what happens behind the scenes. They don't talk about the moments when you're sitting alone late at night wondering whether any of this is actually going to work. They don't talk about the self-doubt that appears after a failed launch, the frustration of spending weeks on something that nobody buys, the fear that you're wasting your time while other people seem to be moving forward. And when you're building alone, those feelings can become even stronger because every decision is yours, every mistake is yours, every setback is yours. There is no manager telling you what to do next. There is no co-founder sharing the pressure. There is no team reassuring you that everything will be okay. Sometimes it can feel like you're carrying the entire business on your shoulders. And the truth is you are. But here's the good news. The people who eventually succeed aren't necessarily smarter than everyone else. They're not fearless, they're not always confident, and they certainly don't have everything figured out from the beginning. What separates them is that they stop trying to do everything at once. Most beginners overwhelm themselves because they believe they need to build a website, start social media accounts, create content, learn marketing, learn sales, build a product, create a brand, learn AI, and make money all at the same time. That's exhausting, and that's exactly why so many people quit. The entrepreneurs who succeed understand something different. They focus on the right things in the right order. They follow a model instead of chasing every opportunity they see online. And once you understand that model, business becomes much less overwhelming. Not easy, but much simpler. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you next. Here's the mistake that keeps most people stuck for years. They see someone selling a course and decide they need a course. They see a YouTuber making money and decide they need a YouTube channel. They see someone launch an app and convince themselves they need to build software. So they spend months chasing business models instead of building a business. The truth is much simpler. Most successful one-person businesses follow the same path. Services first, products second, audience third. The problem is that most beginners try to start at stage 3 before they've even completed stage 1. And that's why they stay stuck. If you've never made money online before, this is where you should start. Not because it's the most exciting stage, because it's the fastest path to proof. A lot of beginners spend months searching for the perfect business idea. They think once they find it, everything else will become easy. It doesn't work like that. The market doesn't care about your ideas. The market cares about problems, and services are simply paid problem solving. Maybe you help businesses manage social media. Maybe you design websites. Maybe you edit videos. Maybe you create graphics, write content, organize data, manage email newsletters, or help local businesses improve their online presence. The specific service isn't the important part. What's important is learning how to solve a problem that somebody is willing to pay for. And here's why services are so powerful. Every client teaches you something. After working with 5 or 10 clients, you start noticing patterns. Maybe every business owner struggles to create content consistently. Maybe every online store owner struggles with product descriptions. Maybe every coach struggles with email marketing. Most people ignore those patterns. Smart entrepreneurs pay attention to them, because hidden inside those repeated problems is your future product. That's why I don't see services as the final destination. I see them as paid market research. You're learning what customers actually want while getting paid to learn it. That's a much better strategy than spending 6 months guessing. Now we move to the stage where leverage begins. And this is also where many beginners make a very expensive mistake. They build products before they understand customers. They spend months creating courses, templates, memberships, digital downloads, apps, or websites. Then they launch. And nobody buys. Not because the product is bad, because the demand never existed. That's a painful lesson many entrepreneurs learn the hard way. The market doesn't reward effort, it rewards value. That's why the best products usually come from real customer experience. Imagine you've helped 10 business owners with social media. You discover that almost all of them struggle with content planning. Instead of solving the same problem over and over again, you create a content calendar template, then a planning system, then a complete toolkit. Suddenly, you've created a product based on a problem you already know exists. That's a very different situation from building something and hoping people want it. Products allow you to stop trading every hour for every dollar. You build once, you sell many times, and that's where business starts becoming more scalable. But remember this, services teach you what to build. Products help you scale what you've learned. That's why services come first and products come second. The order matters more than most people realize. Now let's talk about the stage everybody wants to start with, audience. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually want an audience. They want validation, they want followers, they want views. But followers don't pay bills, trust does. Because while trust takes time to grow, services and products can already be generating income. And that's what makes this model so powerful. Services teach you what people need. Products help you scale the solution. Audience accelerates everything. 3 stages, 1 simple path. And it's a lot more realistic than trying to become the next startup founder before you've earned your first dollar. At this point, you might be thinking that the model sounds logical, but you're still wondering whether it actually works in the real world. The answer is yes. In fact, versions of this model are being used every day by freelancers, consultants, creators, and small business owners. They started with very little and gradually built something much bigger. What makes these businesses interesting is that they rarely begin with a brilliant idea. More often, they begin with a simple problem that people are already willing to pay to solve. Imagine a freelance designer working with small businesses. At first, every project is custom work. Over time, however, the same requests keep appearing. Clients need presentation templates, social media templates, content calendars, and marketing materials. Instead of creating everything from scratch, the designer packages those solutions into products and creates an additional income stream from work that has already been done before. The same thing happens in many other industries. A content creator starts sharing useful information online and gradually builds trust. People begin asking questions, requesting help, and looking for guidance. That eventually leads to consulting, digital products, or other offers built around the same problems the audience is already trying to solve. The details change from business to business, but the pattern remains surprisingly similar. People start by solving real problems. They learn what customers actually need. They turn those solutions into products, and then they use content and audience building to accelerate growth. This may not be as exciting as the stories you hear about startups raising millions of dollars, but it is a far more realistic path for most people. It is also a path that can be started without investors, employees, or years of preparation. Now let's talk about the part that many business videos avoid. Building a business on your own is rewarding, but it is not always enjoyable. There will be weeks when progress feels slow. There will be moments when you question your idea, your abilities, and whether the effort is worth it. You'll see other people posting success stories online, and it will seem as though everyone is moving faster than you are. What social media rarely shows is how long most success stories actually take. People often see the result and completely miss the years of learning, mistakes, failed ideas, and persistence that came before it. One of the biggest reasons people fail is not because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because they expect results too quickly and become discouraged when reality doesn't match their expectations. Business is rarely about finding the perfect opportunity. More often, it is about staying in the game long enough to improve. The good news is that building alone also gives you advantages that larger businesses often lose. You can move faster, make decisions quickly, test ideas without asking permission, and change direction whenever necessary. That flexibility allows many solo entrepreneurs to achieve more than people expect. The journey isn't always easy, but for many people, the freedom, flexibility, and control are worth the challenges that come with it. So, what should you do after watching this video? The answer is probably much simpler than you think. You do not need another month of research. You do not need a perfect logo, an expensive website, or a complicated business plan. What you need is evidence that someone is willing to pay for a solution. Start by looking at the skills you already have. Many people overlook their existing experience because it feels ordinary to them. However, skills such as writing, organization, content creation, administration, design, marketing, sales, customer support, or project coordination can all become valuable services when they solve a real problem for someone else. Instead of asking yourself what business you should build, ask yourself what problem you can help solve within the next 30 days. That shift in thinking changes everything. Your goal is not to create a huge company tomorrow. Your goal is to help one person achieve a result. Once you've done that, you learn from the experience, improve your offer, and repeat the process. Confidence doesn't come from planning endlessly. It comes from taking action, gaining experience, and seeing proof that your work creates value. Most people will finish this video and continue doing what they've always done. They'll watch more videos, consume more information, and tell themselves they're still preparing. 6 months later, they'll still be waiting for the perfect idea, the perfect moment, or the perfect plan. Don't make that mistake. The purpose of this video was never to convince you that building a business is easy. The purpose was to show you that it is much simpler than most people have been led to believe. You do not need investors, you do not need employees, you do not need permission. What you need is a willingness to solve problems, learn from customers, and take consistent action over time. The one-person business model works because it focuses on fundamentals. You start by helping people, you turn what you learn into products, and you gradually build an audience that trusts you. If you're serious about taking the first step, I've created a free business starter kit that will help you move from ideas to action much faster. You'll find the link in the description. And if you want a deeper roadmap, my book, Start Your First Online Business from Idea to First Income is currently available at a special promotional price and can help you avoid many of the mistakes that keep beginners stuck. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let me know in the comments what skill you think could become your first source of business income. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.